Hello everyone, and welcome to the Indieheads Podcast. I am your host, Matty, aka Recon AG. On this week's podcast, we have...
I didn't know it was me first. Jeremiah, Kill Trap on the sub.
I'm Will, user Will for Thrill.
I'm Josiah, user Wild Imp.
So we're going to start off with what we've been listening to this week before we get into our main topic, which is going to be an album catch-up of a bunch of releases that we did not get a chance to do a main topic on, but they are worthy of mentioning, I guess. Anyways, let's get into what I listened to this week. So I'm going to do... Usually we do two albums, but I'm going to do three, but I'm going to lump two of them together because they're kind of similar. The first of which is Dean Blunt, The Narcissist 2, and the second one is Inga Copeland, Because I'm Worth It. Okay, so Dean Blunt and Inga Copeland, they used to be in a group called Hype Williams, and they had a very kind of weird history, I guess, where, again, they were very obscure at first, and then as soon as they started getting big, they changed their name to their normal names, Dean Blunt and Inga Copeland, and then eventually they broke up, I guess, as making music together. But before that, they put out... before that, Dean Blunt put out two solo albums, the first of which is The Narcissist 2, which is... kind of a fucking mess. It really is a mess. There's some great songs like Gallus and The Narcissist, which features Inga Copeland. But overall, the album is like it's like, okay, this is like a collection of ideas, but doesn't go together cohesively that much. And his other solo albums are a lot better. And then Inga Copeland, Because I'm Worth It, is her debut solo album. They came out last year, around the time that Hype Williams broke up. I think it was a year after. And it's also interesting. I only listened to it once yesterday, and it's really interesting, but I don't think it's as good as Dean Blunt's solo material. But I think maybe I'll give it some more listens. But again, both of these have very interesting production. I think they're worth checking out if you want some sort of, underground electronic influence, but kind of all over the place genre hopping music. And the other album I listened to was a mixtape, Future 56 Nights. So I pretty much missed out on Future's huge run in like 3 mixtape run between 2014 and 2015, and I've checked out all the mixtapes so far except for Beast Mode. So Monster is kind of okay. There's some great songs, but overall was like, okay, this is maybe a little too long. But 56 Nights though, this is a really damn good mixtape because it cuts down the filler. It's only like 10 tracks, and 2 of them are like skits pretty much. So it's cut down. It cuts down the fat. The beats are fantastic. Songs like March Madness are fucking bangers, and Diamonds from Africa and 56 Nights, the song, just holy shit, this is fucking great. But overall, the mixtape, it's pretty good. I'm not sure if I prefer this to DS2, but Future. I think a lot of people. I was talking with a friend. There's someone in my class, my radio class, who's a fan of Future, and we were kind of talking about this, how like. And I think certain critics don't really get this. Cough, cough, Anthony Fantano. That they don't really get that there is definitely some subtleties to Future's music and his lyrics where you might think it's just turn up music and it's like, oh, he's just promoting lean. But like, if you do like look a bit deeper into it, you do see that like this is a man who's very depressed and he's trying to make up for this depression with like a heavy drug addiction. And you do, and these little subtleties sometimes pop up a bit more and they're a bit more noticeable. But yeah, I think Future's a rapper that people do not give enough credit to, at least not until recently. So yeah, Future 56 Nights, great mixtape. Hashtag Future Hive, we out here.
A
Shouts out to my fam at r/HHH. That was awkward. Okay. Anyways, what'd you listen to, Jeremiah?
All right. So, I've been on a really big Destroyer kick lately. A lot of reasons for that. Mostly just because Dan Behar is really good and his music is really addicting. Like, you listen to one Destroyer album, you just gotta listen to more. Anyways, I've been listening to Street Hawk, A Seduction, his 2001 classic, a lot recently. I actually just picked up on vinyl. I saw his show on Monday. It was really good. He played It's Gonna Take an Airplane from Your Blues, which was great. Anyways, right. This album is amazing. It's definitely, if you really liked Poison Season and you didn't really know where to go next, I actually definitely recommend Street Hawk. It's arguably his best. Like some people say it's his best, but it's got really rock. It's got like a the production is pretty similar to. It's hard to describe his sound, but his lyrics are, as always, really cool, really eccentric, really wild. His hooks are great. The hooks are great. There's a lot of quotables on Street Hawk, and there's a lot of horns. There's a lot of guitars. It's a great rock album. He's a mad rock poet. It's not really much to say other than it's amazing, and you have to check it out because you can't really describe Destroyer that well, like, at all. Right. So that's Destroyer.
If I
check it out.
Okay, quick question. If I didn't like him, like Poison, like I liked Poison Seeds all right, but I couldn't get past like his voice. Would I like Destroy?
Well, I think
Street
I
Hawk,
think it's
that's-
definitely worth. I think it's definitely worth diving. I think it's definitely worth giving a listen to, because his voice is definitely one of my favorite parts about it. And if you can get his voice, I think that's really good. I think this actually might be a good up because his voice is pretty. I think give this album a listen. It's hard to describe, but there's horns.
That's the only thing that really keeps me from like really loving Poison Season is just like I can't really get into like the inflection of his voice so much.
It took me listening to like 2 other Destroyer albums
Yeah.
for Poison Season to really.
I
kinda
think
kick it for me.
this album and Poison Season are pretty similar.
I mean,
if you don't
definitely
like
listen-
Poison Season, definitely listen to Street Hawk. Definitely give Street Hawk a try, because I think Street Hawk, if you like Street Hawk, it will make you appreciate his voice more, and then you can revisit Poison Season and be like, wow. 'Cause Poison
Also,
Season's great.
Kaput if you haven't like.
Oh yeah, of course, Kaput.
Yeah, I listened to like 1 or 2 tracks and like I just thought it was kind of cheesy, but like I can see myself overlooking that if I was able to get
Oh,
into
the
him
cheesiness
more.
is the appeal. Oh,
See,
it's
that's
so
what I'm- like-
good.
It's not something I can't see myself ever getting into, just not right now.
Because he takes what is it, like the 2 forbidden genres of the 80s. He takes light rock and like smooth jazz. Just horrible stuff. It's horrible, completely terrible. And he makes it amazing. There's a freaking flute solo. There's like a 1 minute long flute solo in Suicide Demo for Kara Walker, and it is amazing. Just wow. Kaput's a great album. Also because he's just so like he's just like it honestly sounds like he's laying down on a couch like singing half of it. Which is just what's great. Anyways,
I think
My
I'm
next
stealing
album-
this from someone
Couch.
else that said it in the chat, but the final track of Kaput is just him like showing
Oh.
off his lyrical
Oh, Bay
capacity
of
for like
Pigs.
12 minutes.
I think Bay of Pigs is definitely his best song. Bay of
Yeah.
Pigs is absurdly good.
Yeah.
Freaking remove your spurs. Come to think of it, remove your antlers. Like what? What does that even mean? And then he's like, haven't seen you for ages. I still fly into rages at the mention of your name, Christine. It's like wow. Anyway, Destroyer. The next album I'm listening to a lot lately has been Slanted and Enchanted by none other than Pavement. Obviously, I'm a really big Pavement fan. Really, really big Pavement fan. Love me some Pavement. I've been listening to Slanted and Enchanted a lot lately. Like that's my album that I've been usually have like one Pavement album that you listen to like a lot in any given period of time. This is for me right now. Slanted and Enchanted is definitely it. A lot because of the fall weather, like the late summer, early fall. But I had the conclusion yesterday while driving that Slanted and Enchanted is one of the absolute like worst albums I've ever heard in my life. Like it is terrible. It is so shitty. It is like it's just so shitty, which is what makes it so good. It's just so like it's like the production is terrible. Like it's the compositions are ragtag, just like it's wild. Like Gary Young is on the drums and he's like barely holding down the beat, and it's just chaotic and just a disaster. And it is one of the best albums ever made. Like there's just so much there's just so much charm to the fact that it's just so bad. Like you have songs like okay, No Life Singed Her, which is like it's like and I just like started singing. Oh, and the choruses are like why? I mean, it's like it's trademark Pavement and like Marquis's lyrics and like the catchy hooks and like the kind of eccentric stuff. But like what really separates Slanted and Enchanted from all of their other ones is just how bad it is, which is what makes it so amazing.
I think
And also-
Slanted should be like the first one you check out if you check out Pavement.
See, it was my first one, and I could not get into it at all. But then I checked out Crooked Rain, and then I liked that one a lot more.
Crooked Rain was my first one because I found it at a flea market. Did no
And I
idea
feel
what
like that's definitely a better first album from Pavement. I think.
agree.
Really?
I agree. But Slanted and Enchanted is there's just so much magic. It's just really like lightning captured in a bottle. It's the only way to describe it. It is just so wow. It's like so punk.
There's a big sense in like all their music of just not giving a fuck.
Oh yeah, it's so slacker.
It's great.
And it's also so mysterious too. Because the entire mythos around Pavement during they like created themselves a mythos during Slanted and Enchanted because they didn't tour. They didn't want to tour. And in their early years they didn't really want to tour. And so they signed their names as Stephen Malcolm signed his name as SM and Scott Cannonberg was Spiral Stairs. So it's like SM and Spiral Stairs, like who are they? Like their covers are weird. Their songs have the strangest names. Their last song of the album is called Our Singer, which is like the most like, and especially for a band that you don't really like. If you don't know anything about the band at all, and like the band is keeping that hidden, a song called Our Singer is just ridiculous, and it's just completely ridiculous.
Hunter, can I have you real quick?
Yeah.
Here's how this. Okay, what you just said about them that they didn't want to tour. This is how like '90s your statement is because in the '90s a band didn't have to tour if they didn't want to.
It's true.
Which is like now it's like you have to fucking tour. If you don't tour, you're not gonna make any money. So it's so fucking weird that you can't. That a band had that option back then. Like, oh yeah, we don't want to tour, so we're not going to tour. We can make enough money off our music, which is just like.
Oh no! What's crazy is the Beatles in the '60s they chose not to tour after Revolver.
Yeah, because they got
the biggest band.
That was after they were like world famous and were like.
They got like that's crazy that they would make that.
Want.
Like artists today would not make that choice.
I mean, unless you're putting out albums like every 2 months, like your Beach House or something, that's not gonna happen. You just have to keep making music.
Beatles had like a yearly output, so they just could.
Well, everyone did it back then. That was just like the expected amount of time. Like it took 18 months between
And also, everyone was buying LPs. Like that's the biggest thing. It was just like everybody was buying LPs.
Yep.
Well, the thing is, people were buying music because you didn't have any auction, and the only music you bought was music that you knew because you wouldn't just risk. You wouldn't spend that money on the Velvet Underground, were they? So you'd buy it on White Album instead.
Which, turned out to be a good choice, but...
At the time, but I mean...
At the time.
I mean, but yeah, I wouldn't spend that much money on something I didn't know.
So, Slanted and Enchanted, I don't know if you guys... Going back to, like, the way albums were distributed, it was released initially in 1991 as just, like, a cassette. So it was like a cassette that was like an underground cassette no one knew anything about, but everybody was talking about Pavement, Slanted, and Enchanted. No one knew anything about Pavement. But it was just this album that was like circulating around, and at that point, it was around then, in 1992, when a young Dan Behar, 20-year-old Dan Behar, walked into a record store and heard Summer Babe on the radio, was like, I want that. And then the record store was like, oh, this kid wants the Pavement record. And then they gave him the Pavement record, and then Dan Behar went out and bought a guitar and started making music because of Slanted and Enchanted. Anyways.
What?
Music in general is derivative of Pavement.
Everything is derivative of Pavement.
Well,
There's 6 degrees of Pavement. Always.
There's that Onion review.
Oh yeah, that's what's
Arthie traced Race Submerged Pavement in 5 degrees. Or maybe it was 4 degrees. Because it was Race Submerged. They did Throw Some Mo with Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj was on the same song as Bon Iver on Monster. Bon Iver is a close collaborator with, or Justin Vernon's a close collaborator with The National. And The National started out, or half of The National met and became friends because they made a Pavement cover band. There you go. Ray Submerged just got connected to Pavement. Anyways, also,
one last thing I want to talk about them is that like the MLB playoffs are going on right now. I'm really into it. Go Rangers. And Stephen Malcolm is also live tweeting the playoffs. And that just makes me really happy.
His Twitter's great.
I mean, he's been like live tweeting, but like 2 or 3 tweets a game.
I don't pay attention to any sports. How are Detroit Tigers doing?
They're not doing. They're out.
How are the Cards doing?
That makes sense.
The Cards.
They won yesterday. I think they lost today.
Fucking hate the Cardinals.
I live next to St. Louis, so I'm basically a Cards fan by default. So
the Cardinals they're honestly like the great white hope of baseball. Like that's the best.
We and Jeremiah can go on forever, but I think I'm gonna start talking about my albums now.
Yeah, this is not
wait. I want to finish by one that I've been wanting to say this about Slandered and Enchanted. Also, I don't know if you guys know this, but you guys know the Slandered and Enchanted cover, right? It's so terrible, like it is awful. They took that cover from another band. Like they stole that album cover and then like wrote stuff on it, and then which it's just so cool. All right, it's your turn, Will.
All right. So this week, the first album I've been listening to on an almost daily basis is Joanna Newsom's Wise. I never really listened to her a whole lot before, but I knew that she was a patrician. And with the new Divers album coming out later this month, I've been trying to get into her. And this Wise album, it's one I only started listening to it about a week or so ago, but it's already climbing up my all-time favorites list. It's absolutely incredible. Because it's just very ambitious and intimidating because it's 55 minutes and only 5 tracks with them ranging from like 7 to 17 minutes in length. And they don't really have any kind of pop song structure at all. It starts and then it just ends, and she's singing, her voice. Any of you here listen to her?
I have not yet, but I think so.
Yeah.
I think,
I have.
Was it you, Josiah, who mentioned that like she worked on these arrangements with like Van Dyke Parks, who?
Yeah, Van Dyke Parks, the guy who did like the lyrics or helped with the lyrics on Smile, did the orchestral arrangements for. Oh, also not to be a dick, but it's pronounced East. But but yeah, he did the orchestral arrangements. Joanna did the lyrics. I love both. Love that record.
Yeah, the thing is that her is a very abrasive, bizarre voice. I tried showing it to my dad the other night. He thought it was kind of weird.
She sings like a third grader, but it doesn't matter because her lyrics are like the best that I've heard in the last 10 years.
It's like kind of like Mark Kozilek, like in her way she's like this goes on and on and on. But things like whereas Mark Kozilek is kind of conversative, hers are like actual lyrics.
Yeah.
So it's hard to actually like tell. You have to listen to over and over again to figure out what the hell she's even talking about.
Yeah.
I still
like printing out the lyric sheet would almost be beneficial for listening to her, just because there's so much. It's really like dense lyricism. I love it.
Yeah, like it's not like Mark Kozilek's where it's just conversational. Like she's actually like put thought into every single word she says. She says like over 1,000 per song, easy.
It's pure poetry. It's crazy.
Yeah, and like I said, she plays the harp. People call like say Baroque pop, in just the way, or Baroque folk or whatever, that in the way that just it's traditional music, pop music using classical instrumentation.
I think she gets described as like avant-garde folk. Which is like,
I don't really consider it folk even.
Yeah,
I can more modern classical, if anything. Honestly, that's what I. But yeah, like I said, it's very intimidating the first listen, just because of how long and how long these songs are.
The voice is grating.
It's just everything about it. How there's no repetition. It just kind of just goes and goes linearly, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's absolutely, and like he said, Van Dyke Parks did the orchestrations, the accompaniments for this album, and they're absolutely incredible themselves too. Because they just kind of keep the song going. And they're less interesting on their own, but when you add Joanna's harp and her lyrics, it's just bruh.
It's just
bruh.
I can't explain how excited I am for Divers, and I can't explain how excited I am that she's actually coming to Michigan. That genuinely surprised me.
Yeah, hopefully she extends her tour and comes to Texas, because I definitely want to see her. I mean, and also like this in terms of like attractiveness and talent, there's no better waifu out there. Let's be honest. She's the ultimate wife.
God, you're so. I was waiting for someone to mention something like that. I'm surprised you didn't mention the butt gif. I'm surprised it wasn't mentioned.
I'm glad it wasn't mentioned.
Glad it wasn't.
She had an article in Rolling Stone today. It was like, wow! It's like Joanna Newsom, like crazy harp lady that's like on the cover. I was like, wow! Hopefully this is interesting. It's literally like 5 really dumb paragraphs, mostly about Andy Samberg and like their celebrity friends and bird watching. And then like the other side of it's like 2 pages. The other side is a great picture of her. It's like a great picture of her, but it's literally like the most shit. Like it was just so bad. It was so. I
mean,
poor
for
quality.
music, they're more of a pop culture thing at this.
Every
point.
time Rolling Stone, like every time you think they're about to get in touch, they just completely.
See, but they've been stepping up their indie game. They've been stepping up their indie game this year.
They have.
And so they had a great article on FJM. They had a great article on Courtney. They had a great article on Mac. And I was like really excited.
Quote unquote.
Well, they're indie.
Indie.
And so they're saying like the indie god of the harp or whatever. They called Joanna Newsom. I was really excited. I was like, wow, this could be a really interesting article. And it was not.
Yeah.
I've also been listening to Have One on Me this week, which is her triple LP from 2010. And this one, it's a little the individual songwriting a little less ambitious, but the fact that there's 2 hours of it, it's just a little bit overwhelming. But yeah, Wise, like it's definitely one of the fastest I've like fallen in love with an album ever. It's just incredible.
Draxy doesn't put their music on Spotify because no one wants to fucking listen to it anyways.
No,
That's
but yeah,
harsh.
I'm waiting for that Divers League. I want to be on that podcast when we talk about it.
I'm just joking around, but again, that does suck. As someone who subscribes to Spotify, it's like I want to listen to Joanna Newsom, but I can't because I don't have. Well, I kind of have the money to buy her albums, but I'm saving up for some other shit, and I want to give a little preview of it, so like I don't buy something that I'm gonna regret buying.
That's why I'm strongly considering iTunes Match for just like cloud storage of everything that isn't on Spotify, like Yeast and all of Joanna's other stuff, some vaporwave stuff, and just like stuff I can't get elsewhere that I can have in the cloud and on any of my devices. It's like $25 a year. Shameless plug. I'm gonna go take a pee break while Will talks about Modest Mouse.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for my spot. Anyways. My next album I'm talking about is Modest Mouse's Strangers to Ourselves. It was the album earlier this year. I believe it was my first episode of the podcast ever. We talked about this one like briefly, and like all the collective opinion was that it wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was just bleh, it's forgettable. But in the recent months, I've become a bigger fan of the band overall. And yeah, I've listened to this album more. And I think people wrote it off too soon. Like it's definitely not one of their best, for sure. But it's still good Modest Mouse. It's still like they're alt rock radio core at this point, but they're some of the best alt rock radio core out there. And like, cause there's some like the singles are all mostly pretty good. Lampshades on Fire, I like that one. The Ground Walks with Time in a Box is definitely my favorite song. Most people's favorite song here.
Oh yeah, because that's the one that they play on my radio station. They used to play it all the time, like a few months ago, and I was like, okay, this is really fucking good.
Yeah, it's a good song. There's songs like Ansel, which is talking about his last time he hung out with his brother before he died of a tragic accident on a mountain range, and they were both like on coke the entire time.
Wait, what?
You had me at mountain range.
Yeah,
no, I'm
like
back, by the way.
It said I don't have the story completely down. Like I was reading the BuzzFeed back when the album was released. They did like a long ass article with Isaac Brock. Like it was surprisingly in depth. And they're talking about how like it was his adopted brother, and like last time they were hanging out, it was like him, Ansel, and his dad, and then like him and Ansel got off and like got high on coke, and then Ansel went off and went to sleep like in the morning, and then Isaac stayed up for like 3 days, just like on a high. And then like a few like months later or something, like Ansel went on a mountain. There's a freak accident and he died.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Yeah. But anyways, the point is that there's some good stuff on here. Pups to Dust. It's not a single, but it's a pretty good song. I put it on Symbols the other day. No one liked it. Assholes. Wicked Campaign. A lot of people shit on that song, but I kind of like it. Be Brave is good. The Best Room, I like that. There's only 2 songs I really don't like, which are Pistol, for obvious reasons, for anyone that's listened to it. And Of Course We Know is just kind of like when on the Depression Cherry discussion, how I talked about how Days of Candy was just really boring closer with no discernible, likable melodies or qualities. Of course, we know is kind of the same, but everything else here is at least passable. And what makes me mad about people writing it off so soon is that, like, everyone, like on subreddit, everyone's such a big fan of Modest Mouse and their earlier work. But I get the impression that people in the sub only listened to it like 2 or 3 times, called it quits, and then just there's like a thread the other day, people talking about the worst album in 2015, and this got several answers, and I can definitely see it being one of the biggest disappointments of 2015, but there's no way this is the worst album of 2015. No way.
Oh yeah, that spot goes to Currents.
Hey.
We're getting back into that, are you?
No, I'm not going to go into it. Also,
yeah.
Completely off topic, Will. I just noticed that this flash drive at my desk that I was trying to, it's an old one. I think the brand name is Vesuvius. So, that's a fun little thing. Okay. But yeah, I think I listened to Strangers for Yourselves during the Plug DJ, listened to through it. I don't remember much of it. I thought it was okay, but it was like, I don't have any interest in going back to this. And I haven't gotten to Mouse yet either, so.
I'm not even sure I gave it a full listen, honestly.
That's the thing. Is like, it's not like, I'm not going to say this compares to the Lonesome Crowd West or the Moon Antarctica, but I honestly think this is just as good as Good News for people that love bad news. Honestly, I'm not that big on that album, anyways. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just have to accept that they're not that band anymore, but they're still a worthwhile band, just not the same one.
Yeah.
The songwriting has just changed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. Again, whenever they were starting to make music, they were, very young, and that's where the music. A lot of people say it's like, oh, their old music was so raw. And it's like, well, yeah, because they were young and that's how they were expressing. They express themselves, but now they're a lot older and they don't have to be so raw, which is also kind of a bad thing, because I think one of the biggest issues that I had from one listen from Strangers to Strangers to Ourselves?
It's overproduced.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that it's way overproduced. It's like, okay, like this album, it feels like it's been made for 7 years because it's way too fucking overproduced and way too gone over. It's like sometimes that can work, in a case of maybe Pet Sounds, that can be considered an overproduced sound because Brian Wilson, he labored over every little thing about that album. But it ended up being great because it's fucking Pet Sounds. I mean, come on, it's Pet Sounds. If you listen to it,
Good argument.
But Strangers to Ourselves, it's just this feels like basically with Pet Sounds, he was overproducing songs that are great, and it's like, okay, I have to perfect every little detail of these songs. With Strangers to Ourselves, he's trying to perfect something that's already kind of mediocre. It's like there's only so much you can do to mediocre songs and making them better.
But like I said, I just think that there's a couple of there's 2 songs that I think are legitimately bad, but the rest of this is decent. And I think that just the subreddit and specifically Modest Mouse fans just were kind of unfair to it. So yeah, I got you, Isaac.
Right. So Josiah, what were you listening to?
All right, I was listening to the Free Design "Kites Are Fun" or "Kites Are Fun." It's like some comfortable kind of Baroque pop. It's in the same way that Joanna Newsom sounds like your 3rd grade teacher singing to you. This album sounds like what your 1st grade teacher puts on so you shut up while you're playing with your toys or whatever. It's very kind of... Free Design is a large influence on Stereolab, which is, a great band that I don't think gets talked about enough. And this album in particular is from 1967, and I think it's one of those great albums from 1967 that got shadowed by the assload of great albums from 1967. But some really beautiful vocal harmonies. It all just really just kind of sounds, like I said, like children's music, but it's really upbeat and enjoyable. And gets your day going happy. I don't know.
All right.
And then got Hit Vibes by St. Pepsi. I listened to Prom King 3-4 weeks later than I should have, but I enjoyed it a lot. And then I decided to go back to Hit Vibes after because I hadn't looked too much into Vaporwave in general. But I really like this. It's one of the most accessible vaporwave albums. It's future funk, and I mean, I don't know. I'm blanking out.
Yeah, Hit Five. Yeah, Hit Five is very good. I really enjoy it because it's I mean, it's usually considered vaporwave, but it does something original with it, which is actually making it fun and not fucking boring. Like a lot of vaporwave out there, which is just like really fucking boring and repetitious. It's like, oh god, how long is this fucking Diana Ross sample gonna go on for? Like, how much can you stretch this out? Well, Hip Hop is like, this guy actually seems like he knows how to produce, and he takes vaporwave elements and then adds in, of course, funk elements and electronic elements, where just general sampling. It's like, wow, this is really fucking fun and good, and very hit vibes.
Yep, good, good vibes.
Good vibrations. Okay, let's get to our main topic. So we couldn't decide what album we want to talk about this week, so we decided let's just talk about them all. We're gonna do an album catch up, which is kind of similar to Fantano's
boom, rapid fire mode. Actually,
rapid fire lightning round. It's very similar to Fantano's YNO review, and we're gonna do a little brief discussions over a number of albums that have come out in the past couple of weeks that we want to talk about.
In reality, it's not really. It's just because we only have 4 podcasts a month, and there are a lot more than 4 albums that get released in a month, and we only really have time to talk about a few of them. So this is just our way of recapping the ones that we didn't have an official discussion for, but are all very good in their own ways.
Yes, except Will's gonna shit on most of these.
At least 4
Will's
of them.
Shit on.
Okay, so let's go with the first one. Sun Coming Down. So I personally just listened to this.
Watermark of civilization. Some things.
So I personally just listened to this today, and I was like, "Wow, this is really fucking good." It's not as good. It's. I think the Here Lies music review is insanely accurate, where it's so close to being great, but it's just not quite there. I think Jeremiah, you're gonna fight us on this, which I'm gonna kind of agree with you and kind of fight with you about it on.
I'm gonna fight with him.
Is that the band's influences are very obvious, and they definitely drown in them a little bit too much. And it's very Talking Heads inspired.
Do you like LCD Sound System?
No, okay, Jeremiah, I'm going to contest you with that because here's the thing. LCD Sound System, they take those influences and make something original. With Ott, that's kind of the case. With LCD Sound System, it's like, okay, it's very obvious he has all these influences, but he's able to make something original with them.
Well, I would argue
with Ott, it's like, well, kinda, but yeah,
Well, actually, James Murphy straight up takes things.
Drunk Girls is.
I'm never tired of that. Never as tired as when I'm waking up. From their self-titled. He said that he was he made it and he was writing it. It was really really late at night. He wrote it and he noticed that the descending guitar pattern was almost the same as Dear Prudence by the Beatles. And he was like, wow. But instead of scrapping it, he decided to add more things from Dear Prudence into it. So, which I think is really admirable, and it's damn, that takes so many. That's just really cool that he takes. And so, I think James Murphy is definitely much more of a liberal user of influences than Ott is. I know what you're talking. I can kind of see the Talking Heads, but to me, this album does not. I don't hear it as a Talking Heads derivative.
I mean, yeah, no.
I think the biggest similarity.
I didn't mean it was it's a complete Talking Heads ripoff because it takes influences from a lot of bands. Of course, I heard a little Joy Division. Of course, I hear a little Talking Heads. I heard a little bit of David Bowie in the vocalist.
Yeah,
I thought their voices were pretty similar.
For me, the worst it gets is in Beautiful Blue Sky. That's when he's just basically just talking. That's when it gets totally David.
How's the family? How's the family?
Yeah, that's just David Byrne. That is David Byrne.
Yeah, that's the only honestly that's the only outside of the fact that it's obviously post punk and is influenced by that entire scene. That's the biggest David, and of course the album artwork is reminiscent of Remain in Light, but I don't think it's much of a. Whoa, excuse me. I honestly don't think it's much of a problem. I don't see a problem with it. I'm
not saying it's a big problem. I still really like the album.
And also, I actually do think this album is great. I disagree with Richard for once. This is a very, very, very good album. It's really, really listenable. Like that's something that people take for granted sometimes is like an album being listenable. So, which when I say that, I mean like, what's an album that's great but not listenable? Like
Ease.
To Pimp a Butterfly, for example. You can't just like have that on like all the time. You have to like you have to really like dedicate. This album is I can put this album on anytime, any emotion, any feeling, and just enjoy it. It's got great beats, got a great rhythm section. The guitar lines are interesting. The vocalist is such a bad singer, which happens to be like one of my favorite things is when vocalists are terrible, aka Stephen Malcolmus, James Murphy. This guy definitely like
Murphy's
he's
not
just
that bad.
bad. What?
James,
No,
James
you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, but I don't really feel like
generally there's a traditionally good vocalist, and it's like basically the traditionally good vocalist is going to win American Idol by. I think David Byrne has a quote. I'm going to paraphrase this. It's probably not like exactly what he said, but like
can't believe
you can't believe a good vocalist. It's like the worse the vocalist is, the more you have to believe in him. So like I mean, a classic example, Bob Dylan. Dude has a terrible voice, but like
absolutely.
But he was a lyrical genius, pretty much, and that's why people listen to him because of his lyrics. And he's like, wow, this guy is really saying what's on people's minds right now, or just in just general moods.
Well, like John Lennon had like said that like he was getting away with murder just because like his lyrics were so vague. Mm-hmm. But I mean, which is I kind of see, but at the same time, yeah. I mean, we don't need to get on a Bob Dylan tangent, but yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, this is just a really, really great album. It's definitely this year's been pretty great for post-punk, with the band formerly known as Viet Cong.
Yes.
Proto Martyr. There's another one that I'm forgetting.
I need to check out the Proto Martyr album.
See, for me, like
it's the second great
thing with this album
from
and all of it.
That's
Just
good.
that I can't get into the post-punk revival movement like I want to. Like, there's no discernible reason why I don't like it. But it's just that none of these bands really pique my interest. But with that being said, Aught's my favorite.
I'm with Jeremiah on Aught. I probably thought their first album was better than most of, like, you guys think. And I probably thought this one was a lot better.
It definitely bangs. There were men for miles. There were men like there's just so many like quotables too, and the lyrics are really. Can we talk about like the subject matter? The subject.
I haven't listened to enough to go about that, but you can.
Wowza! This is some.
Yeah.
Pulling
up the lyric sheets.
Leery. Wow.
It's very quotable.
Really bleak.
Just after I've only listened to it twice, but there's definitely a lot of memorable stuff.
There's stuff about death, about industry, about capitalism ruining everyone, which is all stuff that I'm a big fan of. There's stuff about inequality and like just this is the high watermark of civilization. And like Beautiful Blue Sky is all about like the lack of beautiful blue sky, about like industrial just like smog and just blah.
Beautiful Blue Sky, it was like it kind of felt like to me I got a little bit of once in a like of course we talked about Talking Heads. I got a little bit of once in a lifetime vibe.
And it's like a working like you can hear the rhythm, you can hear like the working class just like wake up, go to work, go home, eat, wake up, go to work. Like there's that like he describes like a rhythm there, and the way he sings, it's pretty powerful. Obviously, I mean it feels very much like it's pretty, especially like for like the way working is right now. It's definitely very evocative.
It's very repetitious. It's like he keeps repeating certain things like, how's the fan? I'm like, how's the fan? I'm like, how's the fan?
Yeah. Just
exactly. Gets into it's sort of like a parody of that repetitious 9-to-5 lifestyle where you just do it. It's just the same routine every single day. And it's like,
and it's very, wow. It's pretty great. And especially with his voice too. It's just like it's really jarring and it's like, wow. So yeah, I think it's a great album. I think it's one of my favorites from this year.
All right, let's go. Let's get into the next album. Julia Holter, Have You in My Wilderness? I'm gonna let someone else start off with this one because I don't have much to
album say. Is amazing.
I guess I'm just gonna be agreeing with Jeremiah all night.
This album is just dope. It's very gorgeous. This album is wowza. Like, wrap me in a blanket and set me off down the Ganges River. This is beautiful. Gorgeous. Like, the songs are wistful and, like, ethereal and glittery. And, woo, and her voice is so pretty. And it can be a little bit haunting at times. And like, she just has these moments of vocal brilliance, like Feel You, and the chorus when she's like, how's that line go? Where she's, and wait, hold on. Let me, all right, I'm going to listen to it, and then I'm going to sing it and get back to you guys.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay, I'll talk about it real quickly. I feel like I'm just not getting, like, I feel like something's not completely clicking with me in this album because it's very pleasant and pretty, but, like, it's kind of boring to me, I guess. Like, it's just something about, I'm just, maybe it's a little too subtle for me in certain ways where it's like, this isn't really exciting me. Because I listened to it, like, one more time before we did this podcast, and I was like, I should really, really enjoy this, but, like, it's just kind of boring me a little bit. Where I think maybe it's just like it's like if I maybe focus on the songwriting. It's a
low-key album. It's definitely a low-key album.
Yeah, I think like once I get like if I like really sit down, digest it, give it a different setting, it's like okay.
I feel
like
like
a shitty.
This
is a shitty cliche oxymoron, but it's like loud in its subtleties. I feel like.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And there's just a lot of cool effects that happen, and I'm not gonna sing the line, but it's when she's like. It's tough to see like who I'm waiting for in my raincoat, like that line and Feel You. Just the way she delivers it, there's just so much just like longing and like, ooh, wow, it's gorgeous. All the songs on here are great. Newsom, Stranded on the Island, Betsy on the Roof are really vivid stories, but at the same time, what makes them really cool is how, just I guess abstract or what's the word I'm looking for? Shoot. Oh man.
You said something along the lines of abstract.
Well, actually, this is a segue though. The thing is, I actually think is like this album. I'm kind of like Matty, but to a lesser extent. Some of the more up tempo tracks I really enjoy, like Feel You, like, Silhouette, Sea Calls Me Home, Every Time Boots.
Every Time Boots is
I love
so
those songs.
Fun.
Those are great. Especially my favorite is Sea Calls Me Home, like that sax solo and they keep building towards it. And then that sax solo is maybe one of my favorite moments in music all year. Just woo-wee. But like some of these...
There was just an interference exploded.
Oh, is it good again?
Okay, no, I think you're good now.
It's back.
Well, just disconnect your mic. Sorry, listeners.
Actually, I remember the word. It's ambiguous, right? Hard word to remember. A lot of her lyrics are ambiguous. There's a lot of mystery there. And I think... I saw Fantana was complaining about it, but that's actually one thing that I really, really do appreciate is that it's like sometimes when you have too clear cut of a meaning that it almost takes away from the listening experience because it's just like they're just telling it to you to your face. This way, it's just like you can kind of interpret it emotionally. And there's some songs, there's a lot of like some sexuality comes in on like Night Song. I think it's Night Song or maybe Silhouette, but. Well, Silhouette definitely, Night Song too. It was just like, and it's just really vivid, but also like kind of foggy and glittery and like, just like shivery. Oh, it's great. It's really gorgeous. Really, really gorgeous pop album. It's also very, very, like the arrangement, like the production is excellent. There's a lot going on. She's definitely like very much attention to detail paid on this album. So if you get the chance, listen to it on like, high fidelity stuff or get this on vinyl. I'm gonna try and pick it up on vinyl. I haven't seen it on vinyl yet, but if I see it, I'm definitely gonna pick it up because there's a lot going on, and if with good headphones, I can. Great album. Wow.
One thing I wanted to mention about it though is that while I like the faster tracks, some of the longer, slower tracks, I like some of the shorter, slower tracks like How Long and Night Song. Those are pretty cool, but. Some of the longer ones like Lucette Stranded on the Island or Betsy on the Roof.
Oh, Betsy's so good.
See, they just don't do anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean though.
Like I want to like those songs, and like Have You in My Wilderness, the title track at the end doesn't really do much for me either. And I want to like those songs, but they just don't do it for me personally.
I think it's definitely an album that rewards repeat listens. Like that's for sure.
Definitely for sure.
So I definitely don't give up on it. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because I'm. This is just a great album that you can put on.
Yeah.
But it's almost there because some of those songs, like especially "C Calls Me Home" and "Every Time Boots" are just fantastic songs. And "How Long," that's a slower song, but I think that song's also very good. So I'm close.
That's the
but just
definitely one of my favorites, though. I think.
I liked
It's
what you
just-
said about it being like ambiguous because it's vague in that way, and it feels like you can paste your feeling into
Yeah.
the song.
That's one thing that's really like that's why the National are so good to me. It's because Matt
Yeah.
Barron is like a quintessential vague lyricist, and you can just find yourself like lost. And it's like another like Beach House too. It's very evocative and definitely like creates like a feeling, but at the same
Mhm.
time, it doesn't do the thinking for you. And that's one thing that I really do appreciate about this album, especially with the lush arrangements but it's also like it's very tall, like it's very open. It's a very open arrangements, and so there's just a lot of room just to get lost and just like feel things in there. You don't really have to like know what you're feeling, but it just feels great. I don't know. I think this is a really gorgeous album. Definitely worth a listen if you haven't listened to it. It's definitely going to be ranking up there this year. Like I predict this is going to be in a lot of people's top 10s. If you guys are like betting, because I know the British bet about everything, so if like you guys get in on that, that's my pro tip. I think this one's going to be in the top 10. Quote me. This is going to be a top 10 for most publications, or at least Metacritic's top 10 when they do the compiling thing, where they compile.
Yeah, it's definitely
appearances.
in
This
the
one is
crit-
going to be in
the
Metacritic's top 10.
You know what else critics like though that fans don't like?
What?
No Cities to Love. Like it's like number 4 on Metacritic.
Oh, it's true.
Right now.
Yeah, critics really, really liked No Cities to Live.
And I did too. But the thing is that it's kind of like OK Computer in that like no one thinks it's the best album ever made.
Well,
But everyone
a lot of
likes
people
it.
think OK Computer is the best album ever made.
I mean, okay, it's how I feel about that album. But you know, it's
Well,
the point that nobody dislikes it. Is the point. Like how much they like it differs, but everyone likes it.
See,
At
OK
least.
Computer for me is that album that I'm like, it has to be overrated. This album is overrated. This album's overrated, right? It's overrated. It's got to be. And then I put it on. I'm like, oh my god.
I will. It's not my favorite Radiohead album, so by default, it's overrated. Because I think our music recently voted it as like the #1 album of all time, and I was like,
a lot of people voted it as the.
It's
And I was
the
like, huh?
Rate Your Music album of all
like
time.
I prefer Kid A, and Amnesiac to OK Computer.
Well, but it's. I mean,
But no one
think-
dislikes it though.
I mean, no,
That's
I don't.
why-
I don't dislike OK Computer.
That's why
I
it's
mean,
rated so high.
OK
because
Computer
no
is
one's gonna
definitely
come-
not overrated. Like that's the like you can fall into that trap really easily because OK Computer is it's the one that's just kind of there. Like everybody's like, oh, Kid A, it gets good. Kid A's the one. Then you listen to it, but it's just like so you kind of think, oh, OK Computer's lame. I don't know, it can't be OK Computer. And then you listen to it, and you're like, wow. So I don't know
Yeah,
where I stand,
I
but
disagree.
generally, a lot of publications like. It's OK Computer. Like the only major publication that has made a top 100 or like top 500 albums list that didn't have it in its top 20 was Rolling Stone, and that's because Rolling Stone, the most recent
out
album
of touch.
was
They had
Kid
Kid A up
at
there, like top 100 though.
67.
It was like number
At
63.
67, that's where Kid A is.
Oh my god.
That's the highest album.
Out of
Yeah.
touch.
But it's
But
not my number
to
one album.
To
Don't
their
get
credit,
on
they
this.
do have 2 albums from the 70s in the top 10. To their credit, that's only 8 albums from the 60s. Like that's a risk. Like I don't know if I were Rolling Stone, would I put only 8 albums from the 60s? Like,
Anyway, speaking about touch, Kurt Vile, believe I'm going.
Oh.
Oh,
I actually
God,
have
this album-
absolutely no interest in this album, both because of the name, the title, and also just because like I'm not like super, I don't know.
I would.
So I don't have anything to say. So that's all.
I'll start this one.
Your assumptions are not wrong, Jeremiah. I'll just say that.
Well, the thing is, the first time I listened to this album was the day it came out, and it was like a lazy Friday. It was like a Friday afternoon, and I was like fighting that mid-afternoon fatigue. And this was really doing it for me for that purpose. Like it's afternoon fatigue core, and like there's some good tracks on here.
Of course, I mean I get, but the problem, can I speak on it? I listened to it today. The problem with some that I have is that it's not bad, but it's not good. It's a very strong, okay.
Well, For
It
me,
goes on too
could've-
long. It meanders for too long on certain things where it's like, okay, these songs are too long, and I don't give a shit about the best track is the intro, and like no song tops that tops the intro, because Pretty Pavement is because it's like the production is really interesting, the guitars are great, just all the elements of that song are really great, and it shows the best of Kurt Vile. But all the rest of the songs in this album are just kind of like, hey, I'm Kurt Vile, and I'm just gonna I'm Kurt Vile.
I can't like speak too much on it because I've literally only listened to it once. But when I listened to it that one time, I was like, "You're fine. I don't give a shit."
Yeah, that was kind of sick. I listened to it once. I was like, I don't want to listen to this again.
I've listened to it 3 times, so maybe I'm a little bit more qualified to talk on it.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I listened to it during my mid-afternoon fatigue, it was really doing it for me. I was really enjoying it. But then I tried to listen to it again. I didn't enjoy it quite as much, and I kind of agree with you. But the difference is that I think this could have been a good album if you just self-edited a little bit more, because it's 1 hour and 1 minute. If it had been more like 48 minutes, 50 minutes top, this could have been a really good album. But he just went on a little bit too long and just meanders a little bit too much. In the second half, it just gets a little bit too samey, where like I can't really tell the difference between one track and another.
Mm-hmm.
But like in the first half, I'm still really feeling it. I'm still really enjoying it. It's a pretty good folk album. And I kind of like it's kind of the existential, but kind of in a way like I just need to get out of my head. Like I'm actually fine, but I just need to get out of my head. And I kind of relate with that a lot. Mm-hmm. I feel the same way about myself.
I mean, this album is basically slacker rock at its most slackiest.
Kind of. So I agree. I like the overall mentality of the album, and I like some of the individual songs. But if he just cut it down a little bit and just made a few of the songs shorter, this could have been like on my year-end list. Whereas it's just a okay album for me.
Yeah. Okay. Disclosure, Caracol. Did anyone listen to this?
I did. I actually did.
Was it boring?
Well, my thing is that the quality of the sound, like the production, like there's a lot of neat sounds on this album, but the songwriting just it's not there. And the features, there's a few good. Like I'm a neo dick writer, so like I liked her song Super Ego, but the rest of it.
I didn't know she's a transsexual.
What?
Sorry, you said dick writer, and I was like, I don't think she has a dick.
That is just the best word to describe my relationship with Neo. But anyways,
I listened to it too, and I just had very similar feelings of "You're fine. I don't give a shit." I liked Magnets. I don't know.
I liked the track with Weekend. Like that one was it could have been
that
half
was fine.
It was, but it was a good opener.
Yeah.
It'd been half as long. But the rest of it's just nothing outdoes Settle, really. It
doesn't tread any new ground. Anything that doesn't feature someone just feels like filler.
But still, like it's a disappointment just because their talent as electronic musicians.
Yeah.
Arts Brothers, like it's there. Like it's one of the cooler. There's a lot of cool sounds on it. It's kind of they didn't write any good songs to go along with their talent of making cool sounds.
I don't want to make too much of this comparison, but it was kind of like Mumford and Sons, where it was just they stayed completely safe on it.
I will say for the new album they didn't stay safe because they changed everything. It just happened to be everything that made them interesting, but we're not gonna. I mean, like, because they definitely made a risk, but that risk definitely fell completely flat. But here they didn't risk much of anything. They got all the top. They said A-lister after A-lister on this album. It was just disappointing.
And then the album flopped too. It only sold like 28K first week.
I haven't looked at the numbers.
But yeah, is it kind of similar to the Church's sound where it's like, let's just take everything away from the first album that everyone likes so much. Yay.
Yeah.
Basically, but where that one was kind of exciting and kind of new. Like, who are these guys? Who is the Sam Smith guy? There's nothing like.
I think that's one of the only few times that Sam Smith has sounded interesting is on the Disclosure song because he fits so goddamn well, and then everything else is like, I want to pass out while I'm driving if he comes on the radio because he's so fucking boring.
He copies Tom Petty. That's just like one of the most obvious copies of all time. But I digress. The point is that This out.
That's
They're
true.
they're more talented than this. The Lawrence brothers.
Mm-hmm.
After the
Oh.
Grammys, I found myself singing "Won't Back Down" by Tom Petty, and I had no idea why. I was like, "Why am I singing this song?" And then I realized it's because Sam Smith freaking took the melody.
No, he sharpened it. No, Tom Petty's great, but Sam Smith. And the thing about Sam Smith is his voice is so gorgeous. It's one of the most gorgeous voices in music today.
It's like if you made Adele male and then took away all of her personality.
Yeah, basically it's just like it's such a beautiful voice, and then just the songwriting is so boring. And it makes me mad because I want to like him. I want to love that voice.
He has a lot of talent, and he just glides off on it and is bland as hell.
So he's basically an American Idol winner, pretty much.
Yeah.
Great voice, no personality.
But he's even better than American. They're just like selling and. Like
he is like he's better technically.
His voice
but
is beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
But his songwriting is so
wasted completely.
Yeah, he just shark bites Tom Petty.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. Next album, "The World Is a Beautiful Place" and "I Am No Longer Afraid to Die." Harmlessness. I didn't listen to this album, so you guys talk about it.
Yeah,
all right, so
because I don't do that emo shit.
I tried to talk about this last week, and I was kind of a mess last week. But I wrote some notes this time. We're gonna power through this time. So the thing is, last week I was talking about how great of an emo album this is. This definitely is the genre classification for this album and for the band. But just to call it a good emo album is to really like undersell it and kind of marginalize them. Don't marginalize me, because this is just a good rock album overall. Because they're one of those huge like family-sized bands with 9 members, with no really assigned roles. They just do what they do. And the thing is that what makes this album so good is their understanding of dynamics, because they have these really loud, triumphant songs. They also have these beautiful acoustic songs. The opener, "You Can't Live Here Forever," which is mostly just acoustic guitar and the lead singer David Bellow singing. But then right near the end, some strings come in, and a really tasteful guitar part comes in. It's really beautiful and good. And then also Katie Dvorak, she's the female vocalist. Stefan was joking in the chat earlier today how vocal harmonizing is really like cliche of emo, but they really do work really well together. And a lot of these songs, their range is good here too, because they can write like a song that's 1 minute long, and all the way to like 8.5 minutes. But they understand the role each song has on the album. And there's a lot of songs that like transition to each other so well, like you can't even tell that there's a new song. Like unless you're looking at a track listing, you wouldn't know. Like there's a 3-song stretch from "The Word Is Lisa" to "Rage Against the Dying Light" and "Raw Patera Dance," where it's just basically one song, but they split it up into 3 sections basically. And there's another time like "Windover" and "We Need More Skulls," where it's basically the same song. And it's just really tasteful all the way throughout. And then on their first album, they had that 7-minute closer, but here they double down. They have "I Can Be Afraid of Anything," a 7-minute song, and they have "Mount Hum," which is an 8-minute song with a hidden track kind of ish in there. They have 2 4-minute tracks in there. They double down, but they make it work really well. "I Can Be Afraid of Anything" it has this one moment that's really cool, where they have a lot of vocal, almost like choral harmonies. It's like sounds really Sufjan Stevens inspired to me, honestly. Like if you listen to it, you're gonna hear some Sufjan in there. And it's just some really great stuff. What you've listened to it, Josiah, right? What do you have to say?
I don't have too much to say technically about it. But you just covered like half the album. But I liked it. I haven't ventured a lot into emo. I've listened to like American Football. I don't know. Some people consider like Pinkerton emo, but I don't really think.
Have you listened to Brand New?
I wouldn't compare that to this in any way. But I liked it a lot, and I just enjoyed it all around, not just in that genre.
Yeah, like the thing is, like it's a great emo album, and I've accepted "The World Is a Beautiful Place" as the emo saviors at the moment. But to just consider them emo would be to marginalize them, because this is, if there's only a handful of rock albums I take away from 2015, this will be one of them for sure. Like Jeremiah, I definitely recommend the opening track. I'm not sure if you'd like the entire album, but I think you really like the opening cut.
The production on the opening track is really cool.
Yeah, like the way definitely as soon as this is over, check it out, because you like the emotional aspect of music. So I don't see why emo be up your alley. That's literally
emo is gross.
See, that's
too emotional.
See, that's the misconception. But if you listen to this opening cut, this album.
Emo is just a terrible name for a genre. Like, that's the problem. Emo got pigeonholed.
Oh yeah, in the mid 2000s, like all those bands, like that was the most popular genre. And it kind of, I guess, gave the genre a bad name. But there's like 2 or 3 bands here and there that really give it a good name and make it one of my favorite genres.
Yeah, the genre name is shit.
And then people like I literally
it just gives me like visuals of the brunette 17-year-old dudes with really long hair over their eyes.
Like I literally heard a conversation like at school the other day, like with some like black people talking like, "What are emos again?" Like they're the people that cut themselves, right? Like I literally heard that conversation.
Oh,
I guess technically, like whatever you want to call it, but like I said, The World Is a Beautiful Place. Definitely has an artful approach to this, similar to how like Carly Rae Jepsen had an artful approach to pop music. Yeah, that's my equivalent I'm making.
Harmlessness, more like I want to harm myself listening to this album.
Nice.
That was
no, I would disagree.
I have not listened to it, so I can't say anything.
I definitely I'm not sure. Like I'm not guaranteeing everyone who listens to this will like it, but I definitely at least recommend giving it a chance, because this is some of the best emo you'll find today.
All right, let's see. Going to the next album. All good.
Empress.
Me. Oh boy. Okay. Now I listened to this for the first time yesterday. I was alone. I work at a newspaper for my school, and I was in the office alone listening to this, and I was fucking.
After weeks of plugging it in the chat, I was like,
I know. I just randomly checked out because I think
like, guys, have you listened to this album? Like, screw you. Sorry. Continue.
Okay, started listening to this yesterday in the office at the newspaper I work for. I was alone. There was no one there. I was kind of sad, but I was listening to this album and I was like, I'm kind of glad I'm alone because I can jam to this in peace and just go like, oh yeah, oh I'm dancing. This is fucking wow, man. Holy shit! It's probably one of my favorite first listens of an album this year so far, just for how much fun I was having listening to it. I was jamming. It was dancing. I was like, yes, this is great. This is the synth pop that I needed. Yes. Jeremiah, now you can nerd out about the song.
Epic one, kid.
So Empress of, I don't know if you guys know, but she's a Honduran American, and she turned down a big scholarship to like legit music school to just like bang out this album on GarageBand or something. I don't know. It's obviously like better produced than just GarageBand. That was how her initial like songs got. She made them on GarageBand and then posted them on SoundCloud. She got some attention, and so she did. This is a very, very well produced album. So she definitely got some like real stuff going on here, not just GarageBand. But anyways, this album is a very, very, very excellent pop album. We definitely talked about it before, but it's a gorgeous, like the production is gorgeous electronics, brilliantly realized, brilliantly rendered, very catchy, just very easy to listen to, but also with like a little bit of bite to it, you know? It's sassy. It's like
yes, the songwriting is great on it, like.
But the production bites, you know, and that's one thing that I really appreciate. It's almost like it's kind of similar to FK Twigs in a way, but like less
professional.
There, you know?
As FK Twigs is like very technical and like precise.
Well, no, I mean, but I think the production value on this one is very, very good. Obviously, she doesn't have like Arca producing for her, but what I think separates, I mean, it's like it's similar to FK Twigs in aesthetic.
FK Twigs is more abstract than Empress of. She makes a lot more abstract, and this is more just sort of loose and fun.
It's really like out there. It's pretty wild. It's like visceral. It's like there's a lot of like crazy noise you might not always appreciate, but with Empress of, it's a really pleasing listen, but also it also challenges you in a good way.
I think that maybe you may consider this an unfair comparison, but like of course last week we talked about Church's album, how we were all sort of like meh on it. Like this is a synth pop album that I wanted out of like. Because it's loose, it's fun, it's not trying too hard to be technical, but it's still very well done anyways. It has a bit of a, I think the one thing I forgot to mention with the Church's album is that, like, it doesn't have the dirtiness that their debut had. And this album definitely kind of has a bit of, like, edge to it. And
I wouldn't call it dirtiness, but it's definitely sharp. It's definitely got a bite.
Yes, that's close to that. It has a bit of a bite to it. It's like
obviously the production. Anybody can anybody can have this production. What really makes this album really special is definitely Empress of. She is very talented. She has a very very good ear for pop hooks. Water is, oh my god, like this is definitely one of my favorite songs of the year. And like I say that a lot of songs, but the hook at the end, like oh my gosh, and she's like, I wanna feel so much more, but I'm feeling less, and there's like the beep, and there's like and there's just so much going on, and it just crescendos, and it's just such a cool progression, and a lot of the songs is definitely like very like raw. There's a lot of raw sexuality. There's a lot of like raw like feminine energy, and Water is really cool because it's about like water is a privilege. Like it's talking about like looking at water and looking at the way we have water from a first world perspective. And she says like water is a privilege, like kids who go to college. And at the end it's saying like I want to care much more, but I'm feeling like less and less. Like it's just like addressing just how like I don't know, it's very much about like the first world. Like we don't really realize how much we take water for granted. Other songs like Kitty Cat is, as the name implies, is about like it's a lot of the songs about sex, about like that stuff, but it's really one of like empowerment and like taking it back. It's very feminine, very feminist. Sorry,
you can just say pussy, dude.
Yeah, no, I'm not. That's not what I'm talking about.
I'm just.
But Kitty Cat. But the thing about Kitty Cat is that like she's saying that she's not her lover is Kitty Cat, and like she's really powerful. And like Need Myself is about like I don't need you to. It's like it's great. It's just great. Just very sassy writing. Brilliant hooks. I
posted that song on
good, and it's a short list.
Jeremiah, you're lagging. I posted that song Need Myself on my Symbol yesterday, so follow me at Matty Mo on Symbol, please, and check out the app Symbol. We did an interview with those guys a few weeks ago. Definitely check out the app.
See, for me, I think this album, I only listened to it once, and I didn't dislike it. But the thing is that there's just I feel like there's an oversaturation of female solo pop albums this month. So like I just couldn't, like I feel like in another time I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But I'll definitely check it out again.
I definitely think you should.
It deserves a fair chance.
I definitely think you should revisit it.
But just at the time, I was like, "Oh, it's another female pop album."
Yeah. Okay. What'd you think of it, Josiah? Or did you not listen to it?
I listened to about 3 total songs between the last 2 albums.
Okay, let's go to the next album. U.S. Girls Half Free. Now, Jeremiah, I'm gonna let Jeremiah talk about this one because he's the one who put this on to like most of us.
Okay, so U.S. Girls Half Free. U.S. Girls is the project of, I guess you can call her a singer-songwriter. Meg Remy. So she's been making music as U.S. Girls for a while now. She has like 4 or 5 albums. She really makes this. It's kind of similar to Ariel. Well, I mean, no. I mean, you say it's similar to Ariel Pink in the sense that it's very do-it-yourself, left-field pop music, but that's pretty much where the comparisons end.
It's a lot more abstract than Ariel Pink. This is.
I wouldn't say abstract, but it's electronic, and it's definitely left-field pop. This is some oddball, some kind of like return to the. It's like looking at the 60s, like 70s AM pop, like AM sunshine pop with like a really, really like a kaleidoscope, or like a kaleidoscope with the crack in it. And so it's just like it's pretty out there, like the sound. And I haven't really had a chance to dive into the rest of her discography. So far of her other albums, US Girls on Crack is my which is it's US Girls on KRAAK, like full caps. It's pretty good. But she has a bunch of other albums, a bunch of other short pop records. But Half Free is definitely the album, one of the most like the biggest curveballs that I've like had this year. This is legitimately one of my favorite albums of the year. Like, wow, this album is so good. Musically, it is really diverse and really creative, and you can hear the influences from like you can hear like the 70s. You can hear there's some glam rock on Said Knife, and then there's some
there's
like
obviously Michael Jackson in the one track, the new Thriller, obviously.
Yeah, new age Thriller. There's some like MJ, but some like weird like new wave stuff going on.
Vaporwave. I was trying to mention Vaporwave in the track Navy and Cream. I was like, this sounds kind of like a Vaporwave track, but like not as boring and more interesting.
Window Shades almost sounds a little bit like Motown. It sounds like Motown at night with weird stuff going. Motown at night in the future is what Window Shades sound like. So there's just a whole lot of different influences, a whole lot of different stuff to make some really, really interesting and really, really catchy and just really thoughtful pop music. But, obviously that's, you can find that anywhere. What really makes this album special for me is definitely her songwriting. She is a really, really great songwriter, and there's some just great, like, turns of phrase here. Like, and it's also another thing that makes it really powerful it's powerful. Like, she's talking about women in just bad situations where, like, the women are half. Like, you guys know have you guys listened to it?
Wait, what track are you talking about?
Telephone Play Number 1.
Oh yeah. That's a weird. That's like, what the fuck?
The skit in the middle, which is like pretty much.
It's actually the second track on the. It's the third track on the album. It's not in the middle.
It's a skit that's not at the front. That's not at the back. I just called it the middle. Anyways, it's a skit that really does set the tone for like most of the album is about, because for people who haven't heard it, I'm gonna paraphrase. It's only like a minute long. You can probably listen to it, but it's essentially this girl gets a call from her friend, and she's saying that she had another bad dream. And in the bad dream, her dad showed her nude pictures of her when she was like 5 years old. And she's like, the funny thing though is that it was like hot stuff. I looked good. And they go on this little discussion about, it's pretty weird. It's pretty funny. But they go on this discussion about like fathers and daughters or mothers and sons, and then what about fathers and sons, or like mothers and daughters? It's like, but fathers and sons. You're right. It's like, man, I would definitely, if I was like fathers and sons, I'd definitely become like one of those fascist dictators. And then she responds, but for now, I'm just another woman with no self-esteem. And then like a laugh track comes in. But that's like, and so the laugh track kind of like undercuts it, but it really adds a lot, because like that, it's like, wow, like another woman with no self-esteem. And that definitely sets the rest of the album. And just a whole lot of, just like, it's kind of hard to describe, but there's a lot of passion, a lot of.
There's so much genre hopping that goes on with this album. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard to like put it on one label. It's like it's US Girls. You have to listen to it.
I'm talking about like the thematic nature of it. There's a lot about women, a lot about oppressed women, a lot about women who are struggling, and just it's really powerful and really, really vivid stuff. And the album cover, and there's a lot about abuse, a lot about like domestic violence, a lot about death, a lot about workplace, just bad stuff about just misogyny. Just there's a lot of stuff in here. And then the cover though is easily my favorite album cover of the year. Easily, it's just a close-up shot of Meg Rennie, and it is what.
That's a bold favorite album to cover.
Oh, it is. Wow, like
even better than I Love You, Honey Bear.
It's definitely they're definitely competing. I Love You, Honey Bear does have the advantage of it being at the foot of my bed when I wake up every morning, but
Star Wars by Wilco.
that's true. That's
I
true.
like Currents. I know you hate Currents, but I like.
But
No, the cover of Currents
album
is
for
great.
me,
I'm not gonna hate the cover of Currents. It's
I
amazing.
really dislike the Currents cover. I think it looks gross. But everybody was like, "Oh, this looks awesome," and I was like, "Guys, I don't know if I like this." But oh man, this album artwork is so powerful. Like I would just see it. I'd be listening to the album. I'd be doing something else, but I'd just always see the album artwork like in the bottom right of my screen, just because the way iTunes displays the album artwork, and so you just keep like looking at it. Just kept finding myself brought to it. It's very 50s. There's like a 50s style wallpaper. She's wearing like a collared shirt. Her hair is all like it's very like puffy and like 50s-esque. But then it gets really dark. It's black and white. The light is kind of half hitting her face. She's clearly lost sleep. Her like makeup's running a little bit. It looks like she's kind of teary. Her hair is wild. Her collar is like all undone, and if a few buttons are undone, she's just looking. His face just like sheer like empty defeat, and combined with the stuff that's on this album, like on New Age Thrill, it's like I won't provide it for you, even though you forced me to. Like holy shit!
Hold on, I think Jeremiah. I think it's from a music video shoot they did. Like I believe I think they put out a music video that like was like what she was wearing in the album cover, where the video is her like a really old timey camera, like a Super 8 camera, and like she's getting her head shaved.
But this just look at that, just like it's so visceral, just so powerful, especially in context with the album, especially with New Age Thriller and Said Knife and Women's Work and Red Comes in Many Shades. And this album is just, I cannot recommend this album more highly. This album is one of the best I've heard this year. It has so much replayability, and it is compelling, and it is emotional, and it is powerful without being like, I can only listen to this like once a year. Like, and it doesn't get, so you can listen to it over and over again. It is catchy. It is unique. It is different. It is
weird.
Dark. It's some left field pop. There's a lot of different sounds on it. She goes all over the place, and every song, I think, hits the mark. It is short, it is sweet, and it is amazing. Oh, no, it's not sweet. It's very sour.
It's sour and like weird and like what the fuck is going on? I think it's like what the fuck is going on, but I think I enjoy this.
It is so good, and there's just so many like sororal feelings, like the line like now I'm gonna hang myself from my family tree. Like whoa,
that is good.
There's just, and her lyrics are amazing. It's just so powerful. It is so visceral and so raw. And the album artwork too is one of the best fitting album artworks. Oh, it's amazing. I cannot recommend this album more highly. I'm really looking forward to digging into the rest of her discography.
Apparently, this is her most accessible record. Like I've heard of that. Like
I believe that. That's true.
She's like her first two albums apparently are just like ambient noise.
Yeah, this is her major label debut, or not her major, her indie, her 4AD debut. So, but this is
apparently they're self-released though, and they're just like noise, like literal noise.
Yep,
yeah,
U.S. Girls on Crack is a wild album.
So I think Jeremiah, you pretty much just covered everything, unless anyone else has anything to say about this album.
Also, there's a lot of great song of the year contenders on here. Like "Damn That Valley," like "Damn That Valley." Oh man, and then "Window Shades" is amazing. "Window Shades" is amazing. "New Age Thriller" is amazing, and "Said Knife" is just like sedentary knife. It's like wow. It's like whoa. And then "Women's Work" is a great closer with it's like you arrived, wrapped in your mother's arms, but you'll leave. Wrapped in a red limousine. It's like, whoa.
I mean, this album for me kind of fits in the same category as Empress of, where it's just kind of like, just at the time, there's just too many other things competing with it.
But definitely it's very different for Empress.
It's definitely an album. Like I listened to it again. I listened to it for the second time this morning. It's definitely an album that I can see myself, if I give it enough time, enjoying. My favorite track probably so far is probably "New Age Thriller," just because it does. Like as the title implies, it does really invoke that Michael Jackson Thriller feeling. And it's kind of a fun track.
It does so very well,
It's
also
a standout.
But yeah, this is one of my favorite records of the year. And it's one other thing that makes it so good. It's just so unique. It's another great example of an artist just digging in on influences and just turning up a sound that's very much her own. In a way, it really is a lot like Ariel Pink, at least in like her ethic, and her work ethic, and her like, I what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I guess in the way she does her work, it's a lot like Ariel Pink. Yeah, aesthetic. Sonically, it's very, very different. It's nothing like Ariel Pink, but it's just a left field pop that looks back at some neglected genres of the past and just turns them into something strange and like almost perverts them into a really, really striking and, in this case, haunting and beautiful pop. And I just cannot recommend this album more highly. So I give this album like Meg Remy's wow. Meg Remy's face on the cover of this album, which is like, she's very beautiful, and this album artwork is amazing. That's the rating I give it, which is like very, very high praise. I give it.
Are we doing head ratings for the albums tonight?
Oh god,
want to? I just did it because her head is on the cover.
Okay, I'll go through. Okay, no, it's too many fucking albums. I can do it for one, but not 6. I can't think of 6 shitty head puns.
The moral of the story.
We give one head rating to
US Girls Half Free is amazing.
How about we pick
give it a listen. It's short. Just give it a listen if you haven't heard it.
Well, let's say our favorite and give it a head rating.
Okay, I'll go first. Okay, so my favorite album of this list. I want to say, let's see. Oh god, it's kind of a tie between 3, but I'm gonna go with Empress of Me just because that's the most enjoyable listen I had to it, and I'll give Empress of Me a head bobbing, like dancing. Yeah, like yeah. I can't fucking. It's good. It makes me want to dance. It's fucking amazing. I give it a bunch of heads shaking all over the place. Yeah, have you guys ever seen that video of that little kid who's in the rave, like a Russian rave, and he's like dancing? It's like, what the fuck is this kid doing here? He gets really into it. That's the rating I give it. If you guys know what I'm talking about.
No, but I understand.
I'm just really salty that I'm not at the beach house show tonight.
Apparently they're giving the album away. Like their new album, they sold it there.
It's totally leaking within the next 24 hours.
It's only
no
like vinyl though. It'll be some
ticket.
super fan that rips the vinyl and then posts it over.
The stupid ticket seller place like crashed when I was trying to log in. It was awful. Anyways, I think the podcast is pretty much over. Thanks for listening, guys. Moral of the story.
Wait, hold on. Hey.
Screw you guys.
Whoa. No, Jeremiah. No. Don't put your anger out on Will. Don't put your anger on Will and Josiah, okay?
Matty, you're in control. You don't have to.
Okay. Will, what is your favorite album of all these albums in the list?
My favorite was Harmlessness by The World is a Beautiful Place. And I give it just a face with eyes very wide. A very wide-eyed face.
So the wide-eyed emoji. Okay.
Yes.
Josiah, what was your favorite album of this list of albums we talked about?
I would say a tie between Have You in My Wilderness and Sun Coming Down, but those are also just the ones I listen to the most. So that's probably indicative, but yeah, I liked those the most.
And I think Jeremiah by far has his half free, considering how much he fucking talked about it.
Holter, Empress of and US Girls are ranked really, really highly for me. Definitely gonna rank among my like top 20 this year, but US Girls is wow. Listen to this album. That's all I gotta say.
Amazing. I did like what I heard off of it.
And before we end the podcast this week, if you guys do not know, I just put out a video on the channel a couple of days ago talking about the Pitchfork documentary that I'm editing right now.
Infamous Pitchfork documentary.
As Alex, he filmed basically him and Jeremiah's journey to Pitchfork, and they met up with Sarah and a bunch of other Redditors. And right now, I need concert footage where I can just get it from the Pitchfork YouTube, and I am going to get it from the Pitchfork YouTube at one point. But I want this documentary to be by the indie heads for the indie heads. So if you are an indie head, or even or someone who listens to this podcast, and you're at Pitchfork, send in if you filmed anything at Pitchfork, a concert, hang out with friends. I don't really care. Just any footage from Pitchfork Fest this year. send it in to our Indieheads Podcast at gmail.com. Most likely is going to be on the documentary, and which I'm hoping to put out by December if I get the footage in on time. If not, at the latest it'll be January, but the earliest it'll be December. So yeah, that's about it for this week's podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed listening, and check out almost all these albums except for Disclosure and Kurt Vile.
But
those
do
are the
check
Yeah,
out.
Kurt Vile, I recommend. I give it a soft recommendation.
Okay, Disclosure. The album's fucking boring. Forget about it. Everything else worth checking out. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed listening, and bye.
See you later.
Adios.